So you had your spiritual awakening around the age of 27, and I remember you telling me a little bit about it. It sounded like it was quite a cool experience, because weren't you at the Google gym? Is that right? Or
Yep.
I can't, of all the places I imagine people having
I know, right?
awakening, I imagine it to be like, I don't know, on some beautiful Hawaiian island or something, or in bed at night or something.
Almost never. Yeah.
So can you talk me through it a little bit? I've met quite a few people who have had spiritual awakenings, and the thing that sticks with me about them is that it's almost like their mind, as they know it, gets blown apart or deconstructed, and
right.
everything falls away. But I'd love to know your experience of it, and continued experience of it as well.
Yeah, very much so. I think what happens is when the mind, or I guess when awareness captures a dramatically higher point of view than the mind has, the mind can only know objects. That's all it can know. So it has to label everything with a name and an idea and a concept. So when you, this is the conundrum of a spiritual awakening, is that there is just that one field of consciousness, just that one substratum, and everything is that. Like when you're dreaming at night, everything happening in the dream is what the mind is doing. So it's like in the dream world, everything is mind. There's no actual separate dream characters. It's all a play of mind. And in a way, it's happening now, but that is the universal mind, consciousness. And it's like it's right in front of us all the time. In fact, it's so close to us that there's no room to even see it. We are that, right?
Yeah.
But because the mind only knows objects, it's like we miss it. It's just right there all the time. And we're just going about daily life, totally overlooking it. And so a spiritual awakening to me is somehow you step back from the object knowing mind, and you become sort of the viewpoint of the substratum, and you realize, oh, wow, it's all just a dream. All of the person I thought I was, all of his problems and his stories don't exist. It's just a dream of consciousness.
Yeah.
And that realization, it's so expansive, and it creates so much sense of spaciousness and openness in you, that that openness is sort of felt as this bliss, this blissful, delightful feeling of all is perfect, all is well. I have no problems and nothing to worry about because I am the one reality. And so you just get very blissed out on that realization. So that's essentially the experience I had at 27. I had been working at Google, as you said, as a personal trainer for about 4 years. And I was in a very dark place at that time, very depressed, and working through my, very sad, depressing, lonely thoughts every day. And so I was going up to this bout of my gym at Google for lunch every day, and I would listen to Eckhart Tolle. And it was like the only thing I could do that would give me real peace of mind and sort of escape the constant stream of thinking and negative self-talk and stories.
Yeah.
So I loved that time of day, and I looked forward to it so much. And probably 3 months or so of doing that, it was just like any other day. And I went up there and was listening to some kind of lecture from Eckhart, where he was sort of saying things that our mind says to us, the ego says, and then laughing at it, of how silly and trivial it is.
Yeah.
And so he would laugh, the audience would laugh, I would laugh with the audience, and he repeated, 4 or 5 things. And at the 4th or 5th thing he said, something like, if only things would just go my way, then I could truly be happy. And I would laugh. And I sort of laughed myself into that realization, where the picture zoomed out and I had this aerial view, and it was just so clear. It's just a story based on memory, moved by this idea that I'm a person. And it's like there's just this continuity of thought, but no person. There's just thought. And I'm just endowing the thought with an identity it doesn't have. I'm giving it all the meaning it has. And I started laughing, just profusely at this joke that the universe was sort of playing on me. I played on myself, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, it's so brilliantly designed and masterful, but totally illusory. And so I laughed, and then I cried and wept at the beauty of it all. And it was like I had no hard feelings against reality for playing this way, because I knew it's all for a greater purpose to have this realization.
Yeah.
Like, the greater the obstacle that the self seeks to overcome, the greater the depth of that realization. And so it was actually the depth of my suffering for so many years of depression that was able to catapult me into this spacious aerial view of distance. And so I spent 2 weeks in that state, completely unbroken, where I was just totally blissed out. And I would, almost like as a thought experiment, would try to remember how to suffer, because it seems so impossible to suffer.
Yes.
Like, how do I isolate myself again into this weird idea of being a character in a story? Wow, it's so weird. And then it was 2 weeks to the day that I woke up, and the first sort of egoic thought kicked in that I didn't recognize. And the thought was, wow, it's been 2 weeks that I've been in this state. I wonder if this will be my permanent state. I wonder if I am now enlightened.
Yeah.
I didn't catch it. And so slowly the ego crept back in, and the stories came back and had meaning again. But the difference was I had glimpsed liberation. I had glimpsed the natural state that we all actually are. And at that point, nothing else mattered. I stopped bodybuilding. I stopped modeling. I walked out of my life and just said, all that matters is this, and pursuing this state is my one desire in life. And so at that point, I used that experience as a catalyst to sort of remember what it's like, and use it as conviction I could build upon to sort of reverse engineer how to get back into that state, and eventually just started sort of teaching about it.
Wow. It's funny, isn't it, how the ego creeps in. I've spent the last 9 years or so watching babies. I've got 3. Like, my oldest is 9, and my littlest is 2. And I've got one
That'll
that's 5.
teach you a lot.
Yeah, and what I notice is often, like when they sleep, when they're really, really small, when they wake up, they're quite horrified to be here. Even though I'm right by their side pretty much the whole time, and I wear them and I breastfeed on demand and all that. You know, I'm a very sort of attached mum. And my kids are kind of very dreamy. You know, they're allowed to be those babies that can dream. And I'm not trying to say, come on, do this, do that. You know, I just let them be. But they seem to go off in this place. And I always think they're actually really connected to who they really are. And then they learn, like, their ego starts kicking in. They start trying to develop their character, and you start seeing it, and you see the purity almost fall from them. But it's obviously part of their journey. But one of the things that strikes me about small children is they love themselves. You know, these babies, like when they look at their hands, they're just wonder of their hands. They look at their feet when they discover their feet for the first time, or their genitals for the first time. They're really kind of shocked and delighted, and everything is new and wonderful. And they obviously see things that we don't see, or possibly you do, but you know, because they look into like different distances, and you can see they're interacting with something. They're part of something, and we lose that. And I've been around people at the end of their life and seen a similar thing. Do you think, as we're coming into our incarnation and also coming out of this state of being, do you think we kind of go beyond the veils a little bit? What's your experience of that?
Very much so. The experience I've had is that enlightenment is an unlearning. Right. It's not, you don't learn anything. You forget everything you thought you knew. And in that sense, children and babies are closer to reality than adults in that sense, because, you know, we adults look at children or babies, you know, looking at their hand, and we go, oh, they're just so stupid. They don't know what anything means yet. So they're amazed at it. Soon they'll learn. It's just a hand. And it's like, no, actually, maybe we're the stupid ones because we think we know what reality is. And the baby is in that don't know mind still. It doesn't know what anything is. So it's actually closer to reality because it's not naming it and not labeling it. And so reality is telling the baby what it is. And the baby is in, oh, wow, this amazing wide-eyed wonder that we can all actually recapture again if we can drop our labels and the arrogance that I know reality. And that's the foundation upon which enlightenment is discovered, is that I don't know what anything is, but that I can't know what it is, because the object knowing mind can only know labels and concepts, but the label's not the reality. The map's not the territory. I can study a map of San Francisco and I can explain to you the geography, but I've never stood on the Golden Gate Bridge. I've never tasted the food in San Francisco, walked on Pier 39. I've never experienced San Francisco. And so the object relating mind is like that. It's always staring at the map and it never puts the map down to like experience reality. And that's really just what the spiritual awakening is putting the map down and seeing the territory. Yes. That's a similar answer to, if anyone ever asks me if I believe in the globe earth or the flat earth, my answer, I have a body answer, like what my body tells me is correct. But then I just have to remind myself, I don't actually know. I'll never know until I actually see for myself what the experience is. And it might be something completely different, which is actually probably what I suspect it is. Like that there is no earth is probably a more accurate answer. But yeah, we are always labeling things, aren't we? Yes. So, I guess children are naturally in that enlightenment until we disabuse them of that, until we're almost like they're abusers, aren't we? As we're sort of conforming them and teaching them all these words and they're learning it and stuff. And I guess is that the point of being here, is that we kind of have our own fall from grace and we all have the opportunity to find ourselves again. Is that the whole purpose of being here, the sort of duality? To kind of learn beyond that. Is that the purpose of life here, do you think? Or yeah, in a sense you can say that. In one way of looking at it, there's something that the enlightened or realized being does have the base. I think I lost signal for it, sorry. Yeah, it's okay. There's one thing that the sage maybe has that the baby doesn't have, which is that the baby is experiencing reality, but it doesn't know that it's experiencing reality. It just is. It's just pure awareness, pure experiencing. And reality wants to have this self-aware knowing of itself, which is why it learns illusions and labels to then at some point begin unlearning them, because now it has the contrast of what it's not to be the sort of mirror to what it is. And it's maybe a bit complex to understand, but the basic idea is, if I am myself, how can I ever look at myself like truly? We can only look at a reflection of ourselves, right? I can't stand outside of myself and see myself, or I really have a conversation with myself that would be genuine. So the source is like that. It is the source. So it is love. It is peace. But in a sense, it can't know that in a self-aware manner without experiencing delusion for a while. Yes. Because reality is best known in the negative. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this. And as we negate more and more things, there's an intuitive understanding that builds within our being of what reality is. You can't say what it is, but you can experience and feel and live what it is. And so, yes, this is very much what reality is doing, is that it wants to learn labels and illusions and be stuck as a dream character, then have the awakening of, oh no, I am the dreamer. And if you've ever had a lucid dream where you have that experience at night where you realize, oh, I'm dreaming. It's Wednesday night. I'm laying in bed and I'm dreaming of this amazing world. It's always an extremely joyous realization, isn't it? You never get depressed when you wake up in a dream. Or if you can maybe capture the feeling you have upon waking up from a nightmare, just that initial realization of, oh, thank God it was just a dream. And we all have that in our lifetimes, many, many times. That is the exact feeling you will get when you have a spiritual awakening, is this profound sense of relief and like, oh, all is well. I was so convinced that it really was a nightmare, But thank goodness there's no such thing as nightmares in reality.
Yeah. That's great. We've got a question from Stephen. I'll come to that in a second, Stephen. Shannon saying, well put, she really likes your explanation. I want to quickly share with you an experience I had a few years ago now. And I just had my last baby. And so he's really, really small. And in the night, I dreamt that I was in the basement of a hotel. It was beautiful, like nothing I'd ever seen before, like beautiful walls, a kind of marble I'd never seen. And there was an infinity pool, 2 infinity pools, which when I reflect back at was like a figure of 8, like the actual infinity symbol as an infinity pool. And I was amazed at the beauty of it all. And I said, I want to put the light on. And I put my hand up and all of a sudden the light just came up and I was surrounded by all my ancestors, all my descendants. You know, like time just didn't exist and everyone was around me and this sense of love. And then all of a sudden I felt, you know, like if you were to open a bottle of fizzy pop, like Coca-Cola or something, and the bubbles, they start rising and then they get faster and faster and faster and faster.
Yeah.
I had this sense that my body, I was leaving my body, or probably the most accurate description was that my body was dissolving and I was shooting up a stairwell towards a window and beyond it was just space. And I just shot right up and it got faster and faster. And it just felt like this orgasm all over. And my only thought in that moment was just of peace. It just felt so amazing. And I was out of my body and I was hurtling through whatever it was. And my only thought was, I'm going to know all the answers. I'm going to the source. I had this great sense of homecoming.
Yeah.
And it felt amazing, like nothing I'd ever experienced. And then I said, it's not my time. And I was back in my body. And it was such a very real experience. It felt like I could have actually gone for good in that moment. But I had responsibilities, you know, to my little baby and my other kids and husband and stuff. But it felt so real. And what I'm left with is this feeling that you can die like that. You can leave your body and feel a sense of exaltation. Obviously, I won't know until I actually experience it, and I might not experience it in that way. But it's so profound. It's really shifted my reality quite a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Sorry, this is about you, not me. But
no, I love hearing these experiences people have, because although they're unique in their own ways, it's all the same experience.
Yes.
Like when you read near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Which I obsessed over when I left the church, because I'm like, I need answers. Who has answers?
It's dead people.
Dead people, yeah.
Yeah. And what did you learn from your near-death experiences?
Well, so the amazing thing I found was that there was all these commonalities in them. Some of which being, I left my body. I was floating above my body in the room. So there's this like consciousness outside the body, or not dependent on the body. And then there's this overwhelming feeling of peace and well-being, that if they were in a violent car accident and, you know, there's someone resuscitating them or whatever, they're just looking at it with this bliss, like, oh, it's all perfect. It's all just a dream meant to happen this way. I'm free. And then there's this going towards the light, the source, the light, they usually call it. The source is always this non-judging, unconditionally loving presence of intelligence.
Yes.
Life review happens. And also with spiritual awakenings, right? Whenever people have the epiphany I was just describing a moment ago, it's impossible to have the recognition, I am the one reality, I am consciousness itself. It is literally impossible to experience that as anything but bliss.
Yeah.
And I find that to be amazing.
Yes. Yeah, that so rings. That's how I felt in that moment. It's like, try
to come up with a problem. If you're pure consciousness, eternal and infinite, where's the suffering in that, right? Where's the stories in that? It's like, no matter what way you slice it, it's impossible to come up with a reason to suffer from that point of view.
Yes. And actually, thank you. That's a really good steer back to the title of the show.
Oh yeah, suffering. Yeah.
This has almost become about awakening. And actually what we're talking about is finding freedom and ending suffering, which may be awakening.
Oh,
but,
yes.
I just want to go back to Stephen. I've flashed his question up a couple of times and then taken it down. He gets the map territory stuff, but don't our experiences have some value to our consciousness? What would you like to add to that?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Everything. What's a good way of saying this? There's nothing wasted in reality. Reality doesn't waste any moment or any experience. So all the time we spend in the delusion that I'm a separate person, just living this one lifetime, my annihilation draws nigh. So I must take what I can get while I can get it. You know, that's the normal default mode. So totally an illusion, doesn't exist. No proof of that idea anywhere you look. But it's not a waste of time, because again, you are giving yourself or source in you the contrast it needs to eventually have that awakening of, okay, if I'm not that, which I know I'm not that now, what is left to be? Well, just the infinite. And so it needs that experience. It needs that delusion or illusion to know truth or reality. So that's why nothing is to be judged. Nothing is to be said is invalid. All of it is happening for intelligence, by intelligence, and it's all perfect.